Hi, this is Kristen and I'm back here from the Dahlia Society to let you know a little bit about how I adapted this pattern to fit my shape and to perfect it on my body type. My first alteration on this top was to A-line the shape of it, and by doing that I added on about 2.5 centimeters to each side of the pattern, and that means the lining as well. So I wanted to make more of that A-line style shape, but with keeping the waist curve as well. What about you, Alisa? Did you change the shape of yours?
Hey Kristen, yes, I actually did pretty much exactly what you did. And it's so funny because when we decided to make this video together for you guys to showcase different styles of this free song pattern, we did not communicate about anything else apart from what pattern we're making and what is the deadline for us to put this all together. So it's really interesting to see how two people from two different sides of the world are actually thinking the same thing by, making it a little bit wider, still maybe slightly keeping the curve at the waist, but really making it a little bit more A-line. And I agree with Kristen, it just gives a little bit of a more of a streamlined shape. And as I mentioned that, when I was looking at the photos of other sewing bloggers that made this free song pattern, I could see this really weird fold in the tummy area. And my suspicion is because maybe the curve in the pattern where the waist is a little bit too extreme. In some of the sewing books, they say that if you build your own sewing pattern from your measurements and your waist is so much smaller than your bust, you should never make that curve too drastic. And it isn't too drastic on the pattern itself, but when I'm thinking about how the fabric is actually going to fall on your garment after you make it, it kind of makes me think that if you go a little bit more A-line, it's going to create a little bit more of a fluid silhouette. So I did exactly what Kristen did. I made it a little bit more A-line, and I think for my fabric that definitely worked out, and you can see on Kristen's garment that worked out as well.
Let's talk about the lining. I actually decided to go for a lining because of the nature of the lawn being quite see-through. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't showing any bra through that. So I went for a really light cotton voile to go underneath the lawn so that it wouldn't affect the shape and drape of the style. You have to remember with lining that you've got to keep in the same kind of composition of fabric. So if you've got a really light lawn, you want to go for a light voile. If you've got a silk, you maybe want to go for kind of a silky fabric, because the lining can affect the shape of the garment once it's all sewn together.
I don't know guys if you noticed or not, but this is actually super duper good tip by Kristen. I'm not sure if she intended that way or not, but yes, if you are choosing the lining, it has to be of the same composition of the fabric that you are making the actual garment in. And a lot of times I feel that I might forget that, or especially like when you don't work with a full lining all the time. This is actually a really good tip to remember. Now, when we go back to the alterations, I did want to make the length of my garment a little bit longer initially, but because you guys know I was really working with a limited amount of fabric and I just really wanted to make it work because the fabric was so beautiful, I ended up actually going for almost the same length as the pattern was calling for. And initially I thought it was going to be way too short, but it's really not that short. I mean, it is shorter than what I usually do, but I made a little trick over there. Maybe a good tip as well. So the front, because I was working with a limited amount of fabric, I kept to as much as I could, given the amount of fabric. Now the back, I actually made a little curve, a little dip, so that way it would be a little bit longer, at least in the back, because when I bend or when I do something active, I really don't feel like tugging it down, just because I want to make sure that nothing pops out, and nothing usually does pop out. But in those situations where, you kind of when it's cold too, you don't want to be walking around with such a short top that always pulls up and your mid area is always cold. That's totally not what I'm going for. And I really don't have any garments like that in my wardrobe at all. So I definitely wanted something a little bit longer in the back. And here's a little tip. If you are limited on the fabric, do the front for whatever fabric allows you, but the back you can always make a little dip and make it a little bit longer.
I decided to change my length because I love a top that I can wear over jeans, over a skirt, basically over anything without being too cropped. I do love wearing a more of a cropped boxy style with pleated pants, but with this it was more of that shaped fitted style top, so I wanted to make it a little bit longer because I knew I wouldn't be wearing it with that style of pant or skirt. So I decided to lengthen mine by about 5 centimeters, and that's both the lining and the shell. And in the end, that made the lining a little bit shorter underneath, but that didn't bother me. I know on the pattern it has the lining a little bit longer than the actual outside, but I wanted my fabric to be the showstopper and to speak for itself, so I decided to keep the lining a bit shorter underneath there. The way I do my pattern pieces, I always cut out my dart so that I can draw the dart line in with chalk and get a really precise line there, and that way it just allows me to be a bit more precise with that kind of thing. And also, when I graded out my A-line style, I used some more tracing paper behind that curve, and I sort of graded out the angle there, so you can see that you can quite easily add some paper just to give you that really nice drafting line. I would definitely recommend a new sewist to tackle this, even if it was without the lining. The lining itself wasn't too bad. I actually found that the most difficult part of this was turning the lining inside out with the bow attached. There's a little bit of a burrito method happening there where you have to roll it up to get that nice clean stitch line on each side, almost like the invisible stitching. So if you're not familiar with that, you can Google, I know on YouTube there's a lot of tutorials with burrito style tops, turning them inside out just to show you exactly, give you that visual. With the bow, you'll see it'll come in a little piece like that with a little square in the center. You could quite easily use a different fabric for your little square in the middle of the bow as well. So maybe you could use some sparkles or some sequins, a little bit of embroidery, that kind of thing. So very adaptable. And it's just a matter of sewing it all up together, folding it over, popping your little square over it and pinching it and attaching it to the back. So that way you can still get it off and on your head without any drama of having any type of button or fastening.
By the way, that was a really good tip about the dart as well. So for me, the length, we just spoke about it, but I also wanted to address one other minor alteration, and that was for the back of this shell top. And there's just something, I felt that there was just a little bit too much of fabric there, and it was a little bit too visible when people would stand. And again, I did quite a bit of research. I went to other people's blogs and I stalked their pictures. No, I really didn't do that. I just, I really wanted to see how did the top work and how did the top look in different fabrics and different variations, and I really wanted to make the right decision about making the alterations or not. So you definitely don't have to do such extensive research. It was just me, and actually I don't usually do that much research. So when I made the muslin, I did realize that it is a little bit wider than I usually would go for. So a French curve and just chopping it off just a tiny bit, fixed it all up. It really was just such a minor alteration that you shouldn't be afraid of that.
So Alisa, would you make this again? And where are you planning on wearing yours? I know I'm going to wear mine maybe for Christmas Day, because here in Australia it usually is hot for Christmas lunch, and it's a bit of a casual style print, the focus on faces. But definitely a lovely wide brimmed straw hat and some sunglasses might do the job for me. What are you wearing yours with?
It's gloomy out here in Tennessee. It's super cold, and look at her! Kristen is standing there in the middle of lush gardens, super nice and warm. She's wearing a bucket hat with her new gorgeous top. Look at that fabric. The colors are so vibrant. Just, if you're making this for summer, this could be a perfect, beautiful little top that you can wear out, when you're maybe going for a light hike, or maybe you can wear it out for a pool party, or, for a time with girlfriends. And for me, mine is made in these little softer fabrics, softer colors. So I think maybe for a Christmas Eve, this could be a perfect little top to wear underneath a sweater, because it is cold in here. So maybe a sweater on top, and if it does get a little warmer, then I can take the sweater off and I can reveal this beautiful little detail in the back. With that being said, because my fabric is a little calmer than Kristen's fabric, I think maybe a string of pearls or maybe another accent jewelry could work with it really, really nicely, and a pair of jeans. You guys know I have a 1-year-old, so I'm not planning on wearing anything exquisite, because it's just not going to survive, and I just don't really have time to make anything super complicated. And you all know that I'm super duper into making sure that my garments that I make are versatile and that I can squeeze out of them as much life as I can because your time is very valuable, your energy is very valuable. So if you invest that time, then you might as well invest it in something that you're going to be wearing time and time again, and this top is definitely that.
My final thoughts on this pattern was that it is a really great wardrobe staple to have. I thought you guys would all love this top because of the versatility of the pattern itself and the fact that you can make it out of so many different fabrics. You could wear it under a blazer, under a denim jacket, you could wear it over a long floaty skirt or culottes for summer. I'm personally going to wear mine with linen pants or maybe denim or a denim skirt or jeans. And it really is a great staple to have in the wardrobe all year round. So the thing I love about it too is that it's a really classic style. A lot of these shell tops have been in for quite a few years now, and the classic boat neck, I absolutely love that for showcasing fabric. The more basic pattern design for me allows me then to use more fussy or more intricate fabric, so that way it lets the fabric shine through. So this is a perfect top for showcasing fabric, believe me.
Now I'm absolutely in love with my top, and I hope that this serves you as a great example that you don't have to be afraid of making alterations, don't have to be afraid of experimenting, and be brave. Be brave. At the end of the day, is just fabric. It's just fabric, but it has the potential to become something absolutely amazing, and I hope that Kristen and myself give that little push. You go ahead and do it, make something beautiful for yourself.
I'm sure the viewers are going to absolutely love this being a free pattern too. Who doesn't love a free pattern? I've got to thank Alisa for sending you guys over to look at my channel. If you'd like to see more of my channel too, don't forget to click and subscribe, and then you'll be alerted to any new episodes coming out, which usually is twice a week. So I hope you can join me for future episodes. Thanks for joining me, Alisa. I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and we're going to head back to see what she thinks about her top.